We've had some real pests in the garden this year, and I'm not talking about squash bugs. I'm talking about my dogs and then my donkeys that the dogs let into the garden that have basically spent the last 2.5 months wreaking havoc while I was on maternity leave. Subtle foreshadowing to what we're about to be seeing. This is the fur of a June dog. She jumped over the compost pile, which apparently we're now going to have to move. Going into this gardening season, we knew that we would be putting all of the lazy gardening techniques we've learned to the ultimate test, because in the peak of growing season, I was going to take a full month off to have a baby. What we didn't know, though, was that that 1 month would quickly turn into 2, or that the usual expected garden foes, like watering issues, weeds, disease, and bugs in the garden, would actually be the least of our problems. Before we started filming this video, I took a quick peek, and it's a real disaster in there. So if you are feeling anywhere near as discouraged as I am halfway through the gardening season, take heart. There are actually a ton of very easy, very lazy ways to fix even the worst garden calamities. Let's go talk about them. Oh, thank God that wasn't the baby. This fungal situation, especially in here, is ridiculous. And oh my gosh, there is a dead bird down here. As if this couldn't get any worse. Sorry, buddy. We've had so much moisture this year that it's a 1 in 200 year water event. I don't know how we say that more succinctly. This is what happens when you have extremely humid conditions and too much foliage being too close together, which tracks because I wasn't here to be pruning and making sure that there was plenty of airflow or, picking the grapes when they got ripe, which is a real disappointment. I was really looking forward to this. Future Ann here, popping in with a quick tip about how to fix fungal issues. I'll be popping in throughout this video with lazy fixes for all of the garden chaos we'll encounter throughout this video. When there is an undesirable fungus in your garden, most people's first line of attack will be reaching for fungicide, and I will tell you right off the bat, that is the wrong choice. 3 things you want to do. First, prune and thin like mad to create more airflow among the foliage of the plant, because when you've got leaves touching and there's something yucky going on, stuff is going to transfer from plant to plant really, really quickly. Second, get rid of your spreaders. Slugs and snails and other creepy crawlies that have a long trail along the leaves of your plant are going to be your worst culprits, and addressing those is very important. Third, instead of fighting the fungus, introduce a new, better fungus. We can do that by spreading a fresh layer of ramial wood chips and inoculating those wood chips with wine cap mushroom spawn. We talk a lot about that later in this video, so make sure you stay tuned. My gosh. Well, here's some evidence of the true culprits of the garden this year. What do my eyes see but some donkey poops in the middle of the garden? This is not supposed to happen. Oh my gosh, more donkey poop. I seriously cannot believe these little jerks, leaving their calling card everywhere they were. Well, if you can see through all of the weeds over here, we see where the dogs have been using this as a pathway to then come in and dig their way into the root system of my Chinese mulberries.
Oh man, look at all that fur. Oh my gosh, look at that hole.
I know.
Holy smokes, man.
Not ideal. I mean, I'm both really annoyed by this and also feel so bad for June and her anxiety. We filmed our last garden tour video before the baby was born, right before a thunderstorm, which gave you, gentle viewer, the opportunity to see our livestock guardian dog, June, who's normally an absolute menace to threats to the farm, having a panic attack because she has major storm anxiety. I mean, who can blame her? In 2021, while she was locked in the barn, a tornado came through and tore the roof off the barn. So that fear comes from a good place. The problem, however, is that we ended up having the stormiest June and July on record, and sweet June was here to fend for herself, I mean, with a farm sitter, but her favorite person, me, was not here to calm her. So she was regularly jumping fences, trying to get to any place where she felt safe, and apparently during one of those freakout sessions, she knocked over one of the garden panels, giving the donkeys a wide open gateway to have a garden buffet. Remember the self-seeded carrot bed I was so excited about because it had worked so dang well and I hadn't had to lift a finger to grow all those carrots? Ta-da! Sweet June dog has done some redecorating and I could not be more sad or ticked off about it. And honestly, this is one of those moments where you could very easily laugh or cry, but we're gonna choose to laugh about it because it's fixable and it could have been way worse. Oh my gosh, I just saw another thing the donkeys did that I didn't notice before. Cool, we'll go see that in a second. The most important premise of lazy gardening is that we never, ever, ever, ever leave our soil uncovered. My dogs were kind enough to come in here and dig all the mulch off of all of my plants back here to find a nice cool spot of dirt to lay in. And unfortunately, that turned our once very fertile soil into dirt. Lifeless dust that is very prone to blowing away in the wind. The bigger problem is not just that the soil is dry, but the fact that it's become hydrophobic, which literally translated means afraid of water. So even if we were to suddenly have a huge downpour, all of this soil is not actually going to be rehydrated the way that it needs to. That water is going to bounce right off, and far more concerning is that so much of this soil that is now dust will be blown away with the wind and washed away with the water, and that's how we lose all of our topsoil. If you want to learn more about this, check out the Dust Bowl. But even now, you can see, if I sprinkle and water this, that water is not soaking in, it's just running off. Kind of like that gross dry sponge that you can always find in your mom's sink. The easiest fix to hydrophobic soil is a nice long overnight soak with a sprinkler. Turn that sprinkler on and let it do its thing for at least 4 to 6 hours. And the way that you know that your soil has been properly rehydrated instead of just washed away is that we pick up a handful of it, and if we squeeze it, a ton of water doesn't come out, but it does actually feel moist to the touch. And the most important thing here is that when you pull the soil back 2 or 3 inches, that down there you're finding even more moisture, like plenty of moist soil, and not more dry dirt, because dry dirt down where the roots of your plants need to be is a sign that you've still got to water some more. Right here, you see evidence of why it's actually good to have dogs in the garden, or at least why it used to be. This is evidence of a little critter that was tunneling underneath, which could very likely damage the roots of any one of my perennial plants that's growing in here. And the dogs love to root up any kind of little critters that are invading the garden. So usually the dogs are a huge plus out here, but they seem to have gotten a little carried away. When I first found out that June was doing this, I was really distraught about it because we've dealt with so many behavior problems and other things with our livestock guardian dogs that have just been a whole lot of work to fix. And my livestock guardian dogs coming into my garden and digging kind of felt like an unfixable problem at first. But then I remembered I grew up in Montana and we dealt with deer in the garden constantly. The easy fix for an animal being a pest in the garden ever is a solar-powered sprinkler that will fix the problem in a matter of weeks. Lazy solution? Absolutely. And the tasty side effect is that my garden will get a little extra water. Not ideal, but what are you gonna do? All right, so one of my livestock pests is on the road right now. Georgie, Porgy, how did you Get out there, buddy. Come here, Bubba. Come here, little Georgie, Porgy. Hey, Georgie. Oh, my lands. Always an adventure in here. Hey, Georgie, Porgy. Come here, Bubba. Georgie, wrong way, Bubba. Wrong way. Oh, my gosh. If you want to get behind him, I can, and just like chase him this way. Take a wide berth. Oh, he's going this way. Shoot. Hey, Georgie. Georgie. Here, wait, Adam, hold on really quick. Move over. Come here, Georgie. Come here, Georgie. Come here, Georgie. Oh, he's going that way. All right, well, we'll let him. I bet that's where he got out. Just like my farmer friend Zach used to say, they'll tell on themselves. They'll go back in where they came out. Oh, look at him, he's going. Good, well, I'll just go the other way and give him some food over there. Georgie, hey Georgie, wrong way, Bubba. Georgie, shoot, here. Yeah, run ahead over there and stick your hand to the fence to push him back this way. Come on, Georgie, come on, Georgie. Where did you get out, Bubba? Hey, Georgie, just wait, Bubba. Ringo, your help is not wanted right now. Come here, Georgie. He must have gone over there. Ah, good boy. That's a good boy, Georgie. Come here. Well, as it happens, this leads us to the accidental squash and pumpkin patch I didn't know I had until this exact moment. The pigs have planted us quite a buffet, so I'll pick some of those and we'll show you the fruits of that labor as well. If you've hung around this channel for a while, you know that I've already been juggling a lot, but we've added a new piece of chaos to the mix in the form of little Bubby here. And Rigby, good timing. The last thing that I need is another thing to have to think about in the morning, like getting all the right stuff in my glass to be able to get the nutrition that I need. So as a now even busier farmer slash mom, it's so good to be able to rely on someone else to get that little aspect right for me. And that's why we partnered with Daily Harvest this summer. I like drinking smoothies in the morning almost as much as I liked eating great popsicles in the delivery room. Making these smoothies is so easy. All I have to do is pull the cup out of the freezer, fill it with milk straight from my cows, teat to table, put it in the blender, and I've got my morning nutrition ready to go. Daily Harvest makes it easy to build a daily morning routine around healthy ingredients you can actually trust. Their food is grown, not engineered. There's no mystery ingredients, no super processed things, just real fruits and vegetables right in your cup. And it's shipped to you frozen for a reason. All of those ingredients and natural flavors locked in at their peak and then arriving at your door ready to eat. One of the cool things about Daily Harvest is being able to find fresh flavors that are actually really hard to find in our regular grocery stores. Because I spent most of my young life living in Asia, being able to just pull some fresh dragon fruit and lychee out of my freezer is a pretty wild thing. If you need help simplifying your mornings, check out Daily Harvest at the link in the description below and use the code ANN15 to get 15% off of your first box of $100 or more. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Daily Harvest for supporting our channel, making videos like this possible, and honestly, for making our mornings this summer a whole lot easier. Cheers! Normally we have an absolutely no walking on the garden bed rule because we don't want to compress the soil, but obviously someone, the donkeys, have already done this for us. But mercifully, they actually created a little path right to some of the worst of their destruction for us to better get to it. So here we are. Oh look, another garden implement I left out here all season, probably unnecessarily. All right, so you may have seen us feeding the donkeys dahlia snacks earlier this season, which I clearly gave them a taste for these things because they came through here to get a nice little snack, and in the process knocked over a whole bunch of these things. The real bummer is this is actually my favorite purple dahlia in here, and oh my Lanta. Well, here's some natural propagation that happened on accident. Thank you, Howdy and Bella. Howdy, Bella, come on guys. Hey Bella, come here. Bella! I hate to reward bad behavior, but there's gonna be some foliage here. The lesson here is maybe don't feed your donkeys dahlia scraps all year long if you don't want them breaking into the garden and messing with your dahlias. Howdy, what are you doing, Bubby? Just rearranging more of my stuff, or is there something yummy in there? I don't know how you walk through those weeds. Those things give me an awful rash. Here you go, bub. One great way to keep weeds from climbing in from the outside of your garden is to keep your outside of your garden really, really well trimmed, or better yet, put a nice thick 4-foot mulch patch in between the exterior of your garden and the interior, which is something I normally do, except that I was 9.5 months pregnant when the garden season started, and I wasn't really in the place to do my normal garden prep, which is kind of what got us into all this mess to begin with. But you know what? We grew a baby this year, and that's way better news than ever growing a garden, especially after all the struggles we've had. So normally I would say, when dealing with weeds, do not major in the minors, major in the majors. Take care of all of these seed heads so that all of these weeds don't actually go to seed and then spread those seeds in your garden. However, in a patch like this, my natural inclination is to come in here with my weed whacker and take care of it all at once, top it off with some cardboard and some mulch, crush whatever seeds may or may not have dropped, and call it good, because there's nothing really worth saving beneath me. And there's a whole lot of stuff that has gone to seed here. And I'm not gonna hand pick or hand prune any of this garbage. Who has time for that? We're lazy gardeners. Even though this looks pretty awful right now that Farmer Ann is back on duty, we should probably have a few less casualties. Let's see if we can reclaim this pepper plant that the donkeys and the dogs did us the favor of absolutely destroying here. I love these Thai peppers and we grow them every year, but a garden gone wild may or may not result in a stellar harvest this year. There we go. We'll see what we can do with that. Maybe something, maybe nothing. Our next step in reclaiming what has been lost to Mother Nature is to prune, weed whack, and trim like a madman. Sometimes this is a little sad, like right now, because it means that we're losing a lot of flowers, but A, they're directly blocking our path, and also they got some disease, so we got to get rid of them. Another bit of pruning that feels a little sad in the moment, but actually has great rewards, is pruning back our fruiting things like our figs. Because though that has a really cute baby fig on it right now, and everything in my heart wants to hope upon hopes that there's enough time left in the growing season for this little baby to mature, there isn't. And so we've got to get rid of the extra plant material and the plant's desire to grow more foliage, rather than putting its energy into ripening those sweet little baby fruits. But far more importantly, provide some more airflow for this whole area, which will help the plant stave off this fungal issue that's starting to afflict it. Let's get figgy with this. In the midst of all of these kerfuffles, it seems the donkeys also disrupted my beehive, which is unfortunate because that hive is probably since vacated, since there's been a water spigot basically going into it all season long. However, funny story, remember how we were talking about the bee swarm that was happening in the midst of our last video? I caught it in one of my swarm traps and it has established itself to be a very healthy hive. So all we've got to do now is convince Farmer Adam to go get it down for us, carry it down, because I'm not supposed to carry heavy stuff yet, and we can put that sucker right back into the beehive that was seemingly lost. Lucy, you want some amaranth seeds, buddy? Here, we'll give you some amaranth. Here you go, Lucy. Look at how tall the asparagus has gotten. All my work to keep some of these from going to seed earlier this season has obviously not gone well, but good news of great joy, we can collect all of the seeds from all of the tallest plants, replant those, and in 3 more years we'll have some more delicious and delightful giant asparagus to eat. And as I try to continue to get back into the Darien Gap over here, I want to check on my baby pawpaws and my figs and my kiwis, but
oh wow, this is quite itchy.
yeah, I told you not to come back here with me, Farmer Adam. He's walking through the asparagus, which is literally the itchiest thing ever. Please don't walk back here. Just hold on for a second.
Shorts maybe was a bad idea.
I hate to say I told you so. Actually, that's a lie. I love saying I told you so. But to each their own. There's a reason I wore my hard pants today. Oh, praise God from whom all blessings flow. Look at my pawpaws. So somehow, miraculously, these little fruits survived it all, and boy howdy, they're almost ripe. As the proud father of these baby pawpaws, because I pollinated them myself. I mean, to be clear, I'm actually both the mommy and the daddy of these pawpaws because I also planted this tree. So, a quick note on this weedy patch here. This is a garden pathway that is very well trodden and is generally somewhere that we put down a ton of cardboard and mulch and don't have the creeping issues that we've had this year. But these weeds here are actually doing us a service, and so while my natural inclination is to want to pull every one of these blasted things up and burn it and send it back right where it came from, the lazy gardener in me also understands how incredibly beneficial it is to have a root system like these plants are offering the soil down here at the very bottom of the garden, because so much of the good fertile soil higher up in the garden has gotten a little dried out by the sun. And I'm really worried about a sudden downpour, which are really common in Tennessee, causing a lot of that good fertility to run off the soil and go straight into my pond where it's going to do me zero good. All of this less than desirable grass and its very delightful root system is actually a fantastic catching device for all of that fertility. So I'm going to just leave this right here against my better judgment. Did I mention that this is a garden pathway? So none of this grass, while ugly and annoying and potentially offering creeping issues, is actually inhibiting the growth of anything we do want. So when we're being lazy and the season's almost over, let it grow. I see nothing has changed here. Our resident guardian is harassing everyone else. Lucy's little goose, as we affectionately call her, on fly patrol. Excuse me, sir? Sir? Ma'am? Do you have any delectable snacks I can snack off of you? I'm just gonna go stand over here now. Please stop chasing me, sir. That's very rude. But if you look around the disasters, there's still some good to be found. So let's try to do that, shall we? First things first, we had some volunteer beans that showed up, and that's always exciting. These Chinese long beans are a key ingredient in one of my favorite Chinese dishes. This isn't going to be a huge harvest, but there will probably be enough for a dinner or two. If you look closely at my tomato plant here, it almost looks like someone has actually taken care of it and trimmed it the way a tomato plant needs to be. And hilariously, that work was done by a pest. This right here is a hornworm turd, and might I say, the turd of a very healthy, large hornworm. But thank you, hornworm, we've got tomatoes to harvest, and that is honestly kind of a big shock. Now, generally speaking, hornworms that are putting off turds that are that large and rotund are pretty easy to spot with the bare eye. But if you are having trouble spotting hornworms on your tomato plants, come right after dusk with a blacklight flashlight. They're like $11 on Amazon, and point it right at your tomato plant. Fair warning, a bunch of bugs are gonna come flying at your face. Be ready for it. But those hornworms will glow. You can pluck them off and give them to your chickens if you have them. But there you have it. Hornworm, first line of defense. Uh-oh, Bubby's awake. Oh my gosh, the donkeys hear him crying, and now they're crying too. Oh, well, if that isn't the most precious thing. Howdy, do you know the sound of your little buddy? Baby Alexander. Hi, Bubby. Oh my goodness. Are we sad? Are we sad? There's no reason to be sad. Come here, little muffin. Should we go fix all our garden problems? Yeah. A lot of the stuff that we're getting rid of in the garden is actually great organic matter to either compost or mulch, but there are a few exceptions to that compost and reuse rule. And I would say that tomatoes and other things in the nightshade family that have fungus on them are definitely not things you want to save or chop and drop and leave, because every droplet of water that splashes onto one of these infected leaves and then touches anything else or the soil around it will then become infected with the same fungus and will spread it to your other plants. And we definitely don't want that. So when we're trimming back things like tomatoes, we want to be really, really careful to make sure we collect and burn or throw in the garbage all of these fungal gross bits. Tomatoes, much like other fruiting plants like our figs, really, really benefit from being heavily pruned all season long. What we actually want to do, especially this late in the season, is really, really aggressively prune these back and make sure that the plant then puts its energy into ripening the fruit it already has, rather than trying to create more foliage and more fruit that, quite frankly, we're not going to have time to get to this season. My basil down here has gotten a little fungal issue, probably raining down from the tomato plant, and that's totally okay. But it's still putting off tons of basil. What we want to do to keep it from going to seed and to keep getting nice, beautiful basil all season long is to just cut off all of the tops of the growths here, which will cause each one to then put off new growth and put on new leaves. Just like any other plant, when we're harvesting it in the garden, we never want to take more than 1/3 at a time. But the big thing about keeping basil going all season long is to keep up with keeping it trimmed and making sure that it can't actually put all of its energy into then going to seed. So this is good stuff here. Hilariously, the whole idea behind putting basil and marigolds around your tomato plants is that it's supposed to deter pests, but clearly it didn't do a good enough job at keeping those hornworms away. But such is life. There's literally been no one but dogs and donkeys in this garden for over a month, destroying things. So we're lucky to have what we've got. I would say that still having cucumbers from our very first cucumber plants that we planted earlier this year is a pretty dang good thing this late in the season, especially considering the fact that here in the South we have so many cucumber pests. And so I think one of the secrets to longevity with this is literally just that it had such a tall trellis to climb, and as it died back all the way down here, it just still had somewhere good to go and grow, and it has. And that's pretty dang cool, because boy howdy do I love my baking cucumber salads at this point in the year. I'm unbelievably pleased to report that my artichokes that I planted from seed actually germinated and have started to grow. My turmeric is thriving. Every year I'm always shocked to see that it's come back. One of my hot spicy peppers somehow germinated over here, and normally I'd cut that out of the pathway, but because we're gonna be a little shy on the pepper production this year, we're gonna let that grow and see what happens. My persimmon tree that I accidentally singed during a cardboard bonfire earlier this year has miraculously recovered, and it's doing phenomenally well, which I couldn't be happier about. If you've been hanging out for a while, you know that I'm obsessed with popcorn and growing my own popcorn, harvesting my own popcorn, then using antique tools to actually make the popcorn. But this is now a multi-year project that has had basically varying levels of failure every single year. There are a few popcorns that have survived the damage this year, but it's going to be a real pathetic harvest this year. In hopes of eradicating some of the creeping grasses that like to creep in from the edges around the garden, I planted some hops here. I may or may not regret that, but right now we've got some healthy growing hops, and this will make for a nice spear harvest. So I definitely can't complain about that. Probably the best fix to a broken heart in a garden is try again. Even though we are fairly late in the gardening season, if you look at the back of your seed packets, every single one has a days to harvest window. And here in Tennessee, we actually have a really long growing season. So though I felt like everything was lost, especially when I thought about only being able to harvest 6 popcorn husks all season long. It turns out popcorn only has 60 days to harvest. So if you calculate back from your first expected frost date to today's date, there's probably still time at least to grow some radishes. So put some seeds in the ground, see some green regrow, and if all else fails, remember, there's always next year. Oh, here's a still edible piece of asparagus. That's neat. But here's some dill that's perfectly gone to seed. How do we as lazy gardeners plant next year's dill? Amidst a whole lot of disappointment, my ginger has miraculously just done amazing. This is the first year I've actually been successful in growing ginger, so it's cool to see that. All my fruit trees are still alive. That's a miracle among miracles. The new raspberry patch is actually kind of thriving. My hazelnut trees also doing great. And all of this was literally just trimmings from over there that I buried in mulch earlier this season and was like, you do what you're gonna do best. And it did, look at it, woo! And most exciting, oh my gosh, are we gonna get some okra? Ah! Well, this is very exciting. Oh my gosh, watermelon, 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 watermelon. There's literally watermelons everywhere I look. And my sweet potatoes are already starting to climb around. We should be able to start picking some okra here this week. That is so exciting. And as you can see, the sweet potatoes are thriving. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The cool thing about all this stuff is that I'm gonna have to fork this up to pull out the sweet potatoes anyway. And the sweet potatoes grew so quickly and so prolifically that they actually crowded out the majority of the grasses that usually grow super tall and high in here anyway. So that's what's allowed us to have then okra and watermelon. All right, this over here is even more exciting because holy moly, did whatever beans I left last year do something good over here, because these all naturally went to seed, have clearly thrived. There's more beans here than I could possibly eat if I wanted to, and that's really exciting, especially because our harvest over there is pretty pathetic. Man, I should have brought my whole harvest basket over here, but these ones that are too big to pick, I'm just gonna throw them over here, and next year they can do their thing just like they did here. This is actually super cool. I truly couldn't be happier about this. We're gonna feast tonight, buddy. The funny thing about all this too though, is that over here, this has no protection from deer and other actual pests that could otherwise probably negatively affect this area. And yet, here we are. The lesson being, my friends, don't ever get animals. Please refer to my please don't get a goat video, please don't get alpacas, please don't get donkeys. That's a total joke. I can't imagine my life without them. But this year, I will say that their presence amidst my attempt at taking some time off was a real stress fest. In areas that have gotten especially crunchy and or crusty due to fungus or lack of mulch or lack of root structure in the soil and hot temperatures, a fantastic way, in addition to the overnight sprinkle, to aid in waking the soil back up, adding that calcium and phosphorus that it really needs, and also giving the microorganisms, oh, sorry about this, my donkey bit this bag right as we were walking into the garden. But basically, to replenish a lot of the good stuff in a hurry, I really recommend this Redmond product, Soil Build. I very rarely recommend buying products for your garden, but this is one that is absolutely fantastic for a lot of reasons. There's a link for it in the description, and if you use the code AnimalTrades, you'll get a discount. One funny thing amongst all this chaos and destruction is that given the right soil conditions and rain conditions, Tennessee will always Tennessee, and that can have things get out of hand in a real hurry. I mean, are you kidding me? I can see the tops of those branches clearly out the window in the second story of the barn while I'm sitting down. And speaking of Tennessee doing its Tennessee thing, check out these zinnias, and these zinnias, and all these zinnias. All of them self-seeded, and pretty much all of them currently in the way, but at least it still looks good and covers up some of the other chaos and destruction. One plant that miraculously saved itself from my donkey deadheading that happened to all my other pepper plants is this jalapeno plant. What's craziest about this is not only the way that it's thrived with zero care or maintenance, though there are no actual extremely hot spicy peppers around these, somehow these have turned into the hottest, spiciest jalapeno peppers I've ever had in my life, which is kind of crazy because usually we have some sort of cross-pollination between our peppers, like we've got some Carolina Reapers or some Thai spicy peppers or something. But this year, it's literally only this one pepper plant that's actually doing well and somehow still providing the hottest, spiciest jalapeno peppers I've ever tasted. Whatever, since we don't have our regular hot sauce peppers producing as prolifically as we would like, we'll take whatever hot spices we can get, but here we are, scratching our heads and eating our hot sauce regardless. This desolate wasteland before me was once a very fertile, thriving, full of carrots garden bed, and it has become a pathway for my livestock guardian dogs as they patrol the garden. So in addition to our overnight sprinkle of water and the addition of a product like Soil Build to wake up that microbial life, we have two more lazy gardening weapons in our arsenal: compost and mulch. Compost is only really necessary at this point if you're looking down here and all you really see is dirt. And by that I mean dusty, unalive garbage here. If we're at all worried about the fertility of the soil, a little addition at this point of some nice vermicompost, worm compost. This is literally just worm poop. Anyway, this stuff is absolute gardening gold. So then, because Mother Nature never wants to stay exposed, or just like my husband Adam really needs a giant hat in the summer to protect his gentle skin from the sun's damage, we want to put mulch, also known as arborist chips or straw, or basically any organic matter that you can get from a variety of sources that will basically act as sunscreen for the soil. I really recommend using arborist chips, mostly because I'm the cheapest human alive and I like free stuff, and I can get it from the power company who comes through to absolutely obliterate my trees every year in service of keeping our power on. Sometimes you gotta lose some to win some. Other people who don't have access to free arborist chips like I do will use straw. That's a fantastic option. If you've got chickens, I would really recommend tossing that straw in with your chickens before you put it in the garden, because the chickens will help you eat all of the seeds out. But as everyone here knows, I hate chickens, so I don't use straw. One thing that I definitely don't recommend getting confused is the stuff that you get in bags from your local home center, because that stuff, which they also call mulch, is beauty mulch, and it's often been treated, and we don't want to put those treatments into our organic, nutrient-dense growing medium for our food. What else do we have that's good? Oh, here's a watermelon. Though the dogs were successful at digging up most of my other watermelon plants, we still somehow ended up with a watermelon that is ready to pick. We've got the nice yellow there. The stem has died back, those little curlicues, the tendrils are died back. This is ready for a quick garden snack, somehow surviving the mayhem. Also, the few unpicked carrots that she left have gone to seed, and so as soon as I fix these beds, they'll reseed themselves again, and we'll have a second go at it. Mother Nature also did us another huge favor with this giant amaranth that wasn't even supposed to be growing here, because its extensive root system here spread out and mercifully protected the other half of this garden bed from getting dug up by June while she was doing whatever she was doing. And that protected all of my very precious grapevines from having their roots exposed to the sun, which definitely would have killed them. And that would have been way, way more sad than a few lost carrots. The bigger blessing here is that all of these grapes, the grapes I was actually really excited about earlier this season, aren't even fully ripe yet. So we won't miss out on this enormous harvest of all of these propagation experiments that I have worked so dang hard to bring to fruition. And in fact, if we look carefully here, we might even be able to find one that's ready to eat. Aha! Step one of being able to make our very own grape popsicles complete. The absolute best gardening tip I can give you, though, is to take whatever felt like a failure this year and turn it into a lesson for next year's growing season. The other thing that is absolutely, definitely never gonna hurt is to get some more data that can help get you off to a better start. And to that end, I'll tell you about the only other product I regularly recommend you buy for your garden, and that is this, a soil test. What? Not from my side. That's a gap. I'm dyslexic. What you will learn by running a soil test is, God, this freaking fly in my eye. This is the absolute best $40 you can spend on your garden, because not only are you going to get very easy to read results that will actually give you the information you need to be able to grow the things you want to grow, the company that does it is not actually trying to sell you anything else by giving you those results. The other thing you can absolutely do this fall to better prepare you for more success next season is to inoculate your garden pathways with wine cap mushroom spawn. If I put this in these fresh cut wood chips now, the very aggressive wine cap mycelium will start to eat the carbohydrates in the wood chips and spread very rapidly through the pile. That is a pretty frugal way to really multiply the amount of spores that you eventually put into your garden in a very economical way. That's barely English. I feel like you get it though. I think there's a lot to be said about setting our expectations low and then being overjoyed and surprised when things actually go well. And especially when we're getting started with gardening, it's way better to have that perspective than a constant disappointment with this that didn't work and that didn't work and this that failed and these pests that ruined everything, when really everything that we do all the time is an experiment, an opportunity to learn and to grow. Every year, we're gonna have successes and failures. Even when we really feel like we know what we're doing and this is gonna be the year that everything pops off, we are still beholden to whatever the weather does and whatever our animals do or don't do. And I will just say that I'm really, really good at finding the bad. But I've tried over the last few years to get a whole lot better at looking for the good. And here's the thing, whether you're looking for the bad or the good, I promise you, you will find it. So this year, look for the good. Look for the chances to learn and to grow. And instead of viewing failures as failures, look for the lessons in all of it. May you grow many good things this year. I will see you in the next video. Cheers!